since having started doing OF, adult content, however you want to call it, do you guys think it has had either a negative, neutral, or positive impact on your romantic prospects or relationships?
Definitely negative on my...
Definitely negative for you?
Yes, and I wasn't even posting any of like sexual content. It was just...
Like lingerie stuff?
Lingerie stuff, and I still got really bad backlash.
Both?
Yeah. I would say neutral.
Neutral?
Mm-hmm.
For you?
Oh, I was just saying I've had both. Like, I've had guys that I like, not really interested to, but like started talking to, and they would be like, oh, you have an OnlyFans, like whatever, kind of weird about it. But I've also had people that are very like accepting, and they're like, as long as you're just doing stuff with like me, like your relationship, whatever, like that's fine. So I've had both.
But it's not clear to me if that's necessarily a positive.
I think, well, for relationship wise, like the people that I've dated and like had serious relationships with didn't care, but the negatives definitely come from men that subscribe to the OnlyFans, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys a question. Do you think there are more men that are there more men that see OnlyFans when it comes to a potential romantic partner?
Mm-hmm.
Are there more men that would see OnlyFans as a negative in the relationship, or a negative thing when it comes to potentially picking a partner? Or are there more men who are going to be like, I view a girl doing that as a positive thing?
I would say, sorry.
Go ahead.
As if we're looking at the average man, so somebody that isn't involved in the Los Angeles world per se, or the Miami worlds, I would say, yeah, it's obviously a negative. It's this woman who I'm interested in, who is socially sharing all these images and portraying herself as XYZ. And obviously that's a negative. I think the reason I remain neutral, and I think that's kind of what she was saying, was because people who actually get to know ourselves and develop an actual relationship with us, in addition to having known about our OnlyFans or later on finding out about them, discover, okay, this is only one identity with which they create content, they create whatever.
And it's really just to make money.
Yeah, it's
like
really...
we're all just trying to survive.
To survive. And I think that's where it becomes neutral. Nobody to my face, and nobody even in my past has ever said,
right,
I would never ever see her again. I would never do anything with her. I would never be with her because of her decision. I've actually gotten a lot of people to come back and just say, hey, I'm so very proud of you. Actual exes who have just said, I'm very proud of you.
They're proud of you for starting an OnlyFans.
Not for starting an OnlyFans, for building a business for myself, for building something at such a young age, like doing all the things that I did so early on and things that I was passionate for. Not that it's a positive. Like I'm saying, I really do not think that sex work should be normalized. I don't think it at all should be on TikTok where people are saying, this is my life as a sex worker and all these things. I think it's really sickening, and it's really bad how organically we're sharing this and thinking that it's okay for the younger kids at all to ever interpret this as normal. Even for older generations as well, we're normalizing it for everyone, and it is not okay.
Sure. I'm just trying to think, like, I don't know, like, probably there's some guys out there that might view it as a pro for a girl to have OnlyFans, but I feel like for the vast majority of men, I think it's going to be a negative.
They're going to view it's going to lead to insecurities.
I don't know if
not like in a negative way, but
I don't know if it's necessarily insecurities, but I would say the vast majority of men are going to view that as a negative mark on you. And then there's a large portion of men, but less than the ones that will view it negatively, that it'll just be neutral. I just wonder, like, do you think, and I think to some degree there's some cope about, well, if you're engaged, if you've done OnlyFans, then you're just going to be like a miserable cat lady. I actually think that's cope from men who, look, I'm not in favor of like, and my preference would be to not date a girl who does OnlyFans, but I do think there's a strong cope from a lot of dudes of like, oh, these women are just going to be like lonely cat ladies. I do think
they'll be fine.
Yeah, dude, there's a lot of simps out there.
Yeah,
so
for sure. But I also don't
see them, so.
Support it. But like, I think that they're not going to be cat ladies either.
There's a lot of.
I mean, I'm already a cat lady, so it's fine.
Oh, boom! She's already.
You don't strike me as a cat lady.
How would they ever be lonely if they're like surrounded by people?
But I will say that, like, why do you want your boyfriend to not cheat on you?
Wait, what?
I'm sorry.
Why
what?
wouldn't you want your boyfriend to have like a lot of like other people they're having sex with? You want it to be yours,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
the same with OnlyFans or porn or any of these sex work. It's kind of the same thing. It's just a different level of that. I don't
guess,
want
yeah.
guys seeing you naked.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want guys masturbating to you.
That's
I
fair.
like to think this is for me, and
That's
that's
fair.
all. It's pretty,
That's
simple.
fair.
I agree.
It's not me going, what a dumb bitch, but it's me
You
going
know
like,
what?
maybe
But I
don't,
think, like, when
please
a-
don't do that.
When a relationship comes into like your life, I think that's a conversation that you should have too, and that's like
Yeah.
about like maturity and being an adult. Like
I
if
don't know
someone,
why I keep going back to the holidays, but if I brought someone home for the holidays,
it's the holidays.
and my dad can just go to the computer and see the
Yeah.
woman I love naked, I'd
Yeah.
be mortified.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I've-
fair.
Yeah, I've had relationships. Like I said, I'm not actively dating, but I've had relationships that come in after the fact, like after I started OnlyFans. And a lot of people will either say, oh, I didn't know that you did that, or I already knew. And even then, it doesn't offend me. It doesn't bother me. Obviously, they don't want to think about all these other people that
Yeah.
might be doing whatever to your content. Obviously, nobody wants to think of that sometimes.
I don't
and
really want to think about.
even then, because of that, what I've learned is a lot of that open communication, like you said, maturity,
Yeah.
just open dialogue of just, hey, let's just not talk about it in certain times. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about it before I go to mass. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about it at the dinner table. Obviously, I'm not
Are
going to.
you religious?
I'm Catholic.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Oh my God, where's Andrew Wilson? Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Wake him
Whoa,
up.
whoa, 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 whoa!
I grew up.
You're Catholic? You grew up Catholic.
I grew up Catholic.
Is that part of the OnlyFans character?
No, I actually try to keep it separate entirely.
okay.
I grew up Catholic. My mom is Mexican Catholic and like super religious.
But are you Catholic currently?
I say that I'm still Catholic. I don't necessarily practice actively. I just actually today went to a non-denominational Christian church for my friend to kind of accompany her, but I just didn't really feel connected. And quite honestly, I felt most connected to Catholicism. I also, like, I will say, like, my whole basis of religion is very distinctly different. My father grew up very atheist, said that we were Jewish at one point just because. So I practiced everything.
Fun
that I
family prank.
Well, he said it
You know
was,
we're all Jewish.
yeah, he's like, well, because they were separated.
Here,
So, like,
let
my
me-
mom would just be like, why?
I,